What cancer cannot do, cancer is so limited. It cannot cripple love. It cannot shatter hope. It cannot corrode faith. It cannot eat away peace. It cannot destroy confidence. It cannot kill friendship. It cannot shut out memories. It cannot silence courage. It cannot reduce eternal life. It cannot quench the spirit. And that was author unknown. Now I want to hand it over to Ann Miley. Ann Miley is the sister of our speaker, and she is going to introduce our speaker for this evening.
Before I introduce our guest speaker tonight, I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming tonight. That's a first. I believe everyone in this room has had cancer touch and affect their lives. It has touched our hearts in ways we wish it hadn't. Sometimes things just don't go according to our plans. In a perfect world, there are no ripples in our ponds, no sadness, no broken hands, and there are no goodbyes. There is one word that can immobilize you. It can break you down. It can cause fear, uncertainty, and tears. But the same word can also make you a warrior. Embrace the power of prayer, and make you appreciate everything and to take nothing for granted. This word is cancer. Your guest speaker tonight is someone who is my warrior. I said I wasn't going to do this. Words cannot explain the journey that she took her family and friends on. The emotional roller coaster from the raw beginning to the ideal outcome, as we all experienced and stood by her side. Although this was not in our plans, she has made each of us a little bit stronger and a little bit fearless. Please welcome tonight's cancer survivor, my warrior, my friend, my sister, Judy Speech.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? I hope she remembers all that stuff when she's mad at me. Before we get started, I do want to thank the Relay for Life teams that put so much work to put this event together. This is the third year that I've attended, and it was truly an amazing experience. My name is Judy Speech, 55 years old. I have an incredible husband of 15 years. I have 2 amazing daughters. I have a very loving family and friends too many to count. I'm a 3-year, 8-month, and 119-day breast cancer survivor. I have a story to tell you tonight, and it is not meant to make you sad. It is not meant to make you fearful. I want you to hear my story and know that you can come out on the other side and be a warrior and be a winner. That there is hope the whole way through. It wasn't easy, but it was doable. And there were times when I did want to give up, but there was always that support system behind me that wouldn't let me. On May 15th, 2010, I had my routine mammogram. I had to have them every year because my doctor wouldn't give me the hot flash patches if I didn't. So I was pretty dedicated to having the mammogram. I remember that day the mammogram lady showing me the new computer system that Fremont Memorial had just gotten in. I looked at it, I didn't know what I was looking at, and I thought, okay, that's cool. I got dressed and went on my way. About a week later, I received my note from the doctor saying that everything was okay. On Saturday, July 10th, 2010, 2 months shy of my mammogram, I had an eye appointment in the morning and then a haircut following. I went to my haircut and was sitting with a bunch of other people, and we kind of needed to scooch over, and I noticed I had a sore spot on my left side. So I had my hair cut done, got in the car. Now, mind you, my eyes were dilated from the eye exam, so I had 2 pairs of sunglasses on, and my hand in my shirt driving down the road to get home. And I found the lump. But I'm thinking the whole way home, I just had a clear mammogram. Breast cancers, I never hear that it's sore, so it's probably got to be an infection of some sort. So I got in the door and I talked to my husband about it, and we were just fairly certain it had to be an infection. So of course I get online, and the only thing I could find for infections was lactating women, and that wasn't my case. But I did want to have it checked out, so I called the surgeon on Monday, and I got in on Tuesday. He was fairly certain that it was nothing due to a clear mammogram less than 2 months, and that it was sore. But he still wanted to do a biopsy. So he did a needle biopsy in the office that day. We went back a couple days later for the results, and it was inconclusive, which he felt he probably just biopsied that tissue. Still, his educated guess was that it was nothing to worry about. So, I mean, my highs and lows were like this for a couple days. But he decided to do a lumpectomy, just to be sure. But I still was thinking it was nothing. Well, we went back for those results, and we were sitting in front of his desk, and he said to me, "It's a good thing we took it out. You have aggressive breast cancer." And I literally sat like this on his desk. But what's the first thing I asked him? Can I still wear my hot flash patches? I'm not asking if I'm going to live, because I was sure if you had breast cancer, you couldn't wear the patches. Because I thought, if I got to go through breast cancer and not be able to wear my patches, this isn't going to be good. If there was anything fortunate about that moment, was that my breast cancer was not the free hormonal-driven kind, so yes, I could wear my hot flash patches. Then I think I fell apart. I have had what's called triple negative. It's a little more aggressive. There is really no targeted treatment. There's the breast cancer. There's so many different subtypes. There's just not one breast cancer. And, so some people get to take a drug for 5 years after, those kinds of things. Mine was a little bit rarer. Of course, I didn't follow anything by the book. So when I'm asking where was this in a mammogram 2 months ago, it either wasn't there or it just didn't show up. What took 2 months to grow should have taken 5 years. That's how fast it was moving. They had already made an appointment with an oncologist for me. It was North Coast Cancer Center, who's now owned by Cleveland Clinic, but I would highly recommend them. They confirmed my diagnosis. We went through chemo 101, you're going to lose your hair, the whole thing. I was to have 6 treatments, 1 every 3 weeks, and then following that would be 36 radiation treatments. We had, we're in about August now, we had a trip planned with my husband's kids to go to Hilton Head the week of Labor Day. So we spent that weekend then canceling plans, calling family members, researching wigs, hats, and scarves, because I wasn't sure what I was going to suit me best. And we did a lot of talking, and we did laugh, and we cried. The next step along the way was a port insertion. They put a port in the chest here. The reason I had to have that, some people who are having treatments don't need that. One of my drugs is called the Red Devil, and it's so toxic that if it would get on your skin, you would need plastic surgery. So they need to administer that through the port. It was 2 huge syringes of what looked like red Kool-Aid, and I had to suck on ice while they were putting that into my port to avoid mouth sores. Scary stuff. 3 weeks between my diagnosis, the port insertion, and when chemo was to start, I was in the shower, and there was a very unmistakable lump under my left arm. Once again, I'm thinking it's an infection from the port insertion. Can't possibly have anything to do with the cancer. We go right back to the surgeon. He didn't like the way it looked. Right into surgery again. He did 11 lymph nodes. He removed 11 lymph nodes. 1 was cancer. My cancer was flat ass flying. My first chemo was to start at the end of August, and I'm thinking, how bad can this really be? Have some coffee in the morning, miss a couple days of work, read some magazines. I was okay for about 2 days, and then it hit. I was taking a shower, and I literally didn't have enough energy to wash my hair and my body. That is the only time I said, God, why me? As I tried to walk up the stairs back to my bedroom, I was panting. I had no energy. And I said to my husband, I'm not going to do this anymore. And he said to me, he looked me right in the eyes, and he said, then you call the doctor and you tell Ashley you won't be at her wedding. My youngest daughter was planning her wedding a year later. I can't describe the indigestion, constipation, and exhaustion. It was like having a hangover, not that I would know. Hangover, the flu, and morning sickness all rolled into one, and it just got better when it got better. Typically, I had chemo on a Thursday, and I didn't go back to work. I was off the whole next week. I did work 3 weeks out of the month. You long for your normal life back. You long for normalcy, and that was my normal. And there were many days I was extremely tired. And just about when you start feeling good, it's time for the next treatment. The oncologist told me we try to poison people without killing them. And I think there was supposed to be comfort in those words. When my husband said that to me, I realized this cancer wasn't just about me, that I was a mom and a wife and a daughter and a sister and an employee. And I had a lot of people counting on me. I had to get better. Somebody shared this quote with me during that first chemo, which was my worst, and I don't recall who, but it says, when treatments start, you need to give up any notions of having a normal life. Chemo is in charge of your life now. You get sick and you get tired. You just have to say, this is a year of my life. It's going to be a short year and a long life. The first chemo was the worst. The others were tolerated as best I could. I knew that they would pass. As soon as my coffee tasted good, I knew the chemo recovery was over. You want the TV on, but you can't stand the noise. You can't stand the noise, but you can't stand the quiet. You don't enjoy the foods that you were used to eating. The coffee, like I said, tasted horrible. You don't want to read, really don't want to see people. You can't get comfortable. My sister visited me that first chemo and said I looked transparent. I was so pale. So then my husband comes up and tries to comfort me. And he's laying on the bed, and he's talking and talking and talking, and he wouldn't stop talking about, I don't even know what. And finally I said, stop talking, you need to go away. 2 weeks to the day of my first chemo, I was at a stoplight, and I put my hand through my hair, and it started to come out. I had this vision of being at work the next day and having clumps just falling on my desk, so I thought, let's just get this over with. So that evening, my husband shaved my head, and he had like scissors and clippers and brushes and combs. He looked like Edward Scissorhands. And he did keep me laughing through this whole process. So when I tell you those parts, it wasn't an effort to make me laugh, and it did work. Out came the hats, scarves, and wigs, and I did choose to wear the wigs. I just thought I looked goofy in a hat and scarf, so I chose the wigs, which were kind of nice because your hair always looked good. I had 2 different ones. When I was I think it was during one of my radiation treatments, a lady that was sitting there asked me, who does my hair? And I had to tell her, I gotta give this lady hope. I think I probably pulled it off. And then one evening, I had it on the prong of the chair, and I came down the next morning, and the cat got a hold of it and was wrapping it around. I just took it off and put it on, and I was good to go. So now we're at chemo number 2, and my husband's not coming upstairs to see me. So I'm texting him, why aren't you coming up to see me? Is it because I'm bald? So he came up and he said, Jude, last time you kicked me out, this time I'm not coming up. I don't know what the hell you want me to do. Again, we laughed and we kept the humor in it. October of 2010 that year was chemo number 3, and after a few days of the typical symptoms, I was craving a Hostess chocolate pie, and I needed it now. So it's 9 o'clock at night, and my husband knew that he better not come home without it. And I can't tell you the last time I even had one, so I don't know where this craving came from. I was so excited, I was salivating, just waiting for him to come home. He had to go to 2 different places, finally brought it home. I was cutting it in small bites because I was really going to say it was chocolate pie. I took 1 bite, and it tasted like plastic. Never touched it again and haven't thought of it since. Again, we laughed. And he does remind me occasionally of all the efforts he went to for me. We're into November now, and just a few, probably weeks, well, a week or 2 after my 4th chemo, I developed a slight fever, and the fatigue was even more overwhelming than the chemo fatigue. I had swelling under my arm again. They didn't know if it was a tumor the size of Texas or if I had an infection. Because of the fever, we were leaning toward the infection, but just over-the-counter antibiotics weren't working. So I ended up in Cleveland Clinic, and fortunately it was an infection, and I had surgery again, and got that all cleaned out. But while I was in Cleveland Clinic, my dad had fallen at home and was in a nursing home and recovering. So I was in a hurry to get home. While I was recovering then in December, which was supposed to be my last chemo, but because of the November infection, everything was delayed. Unfortunately, my father passed away unexpectedly on December 17th. I was simply at a point of realizing I had absolutely no control over anything. I would just throw up my hands and say, God, tell me where to be and when. I have no control. We've turned the corner now to January 2011, so it's a new year. We got one more chemo to go. We were having Dad's celebration of life a couple weeks after he had passed. And after hugging 200 people at his memorial, my port got infected. Now my daughters are home. One lives in Columbus, one in Cincinnati. They're home. We're going through this emotional time, and I'm in the ER waiting to have my port looked at. Fortunately, my surgeon was on call that evening, and he said that's going to have to come out on Monday, but they gave me antibiotics. My last chemo was going to be that following Thursday. It was so close I could touch it, and I was so fearful that it was going to be delayed even longer. But as God's grace would have it, I was able to have the port removed on Monday, and I was still able to have my last chemo on Thursday. I didn't have to have the red devil, oh darn. So it made that chemo recovery much more tolerable. Being my last, that was very much a celebration. In February of 2011, then, we spent the entire month with more scans and more tests and preparing for radiation treatments. I tried to ask why I couldn't just have double mastectomy and be done with it, but my type of cancer is more apt to come back elsewhere, so there wouldn't be much point. I accepted that. You have multiple appointments with the radiation oncologist. They fit you in a form, so every time you go in, they pull this form off a hook and you lay so exactly where they've measured that they want that radiation to hit. It's the exact every time. I drove 36 days in a row, minus weekends, on an extended lunch hour to Sandusky. It actually took me longer to take my top off and put my gown on than the radiation treatment itself. I did have severe burns. I had to take a mini pad and soak it in the salve that they gave you and tape it to my arm for comfort. But to tell you how strong this stuff is, it'll be 3 years in May that my radiation had ended and I'm still sore and tender. That's how strong that is. And it's okay that it is that way. On May 5th, 2011, this is marking 1 year to my daughter's wedding. It was the last day of radiation. And I decided as a rite of passage to take my wig off. So I colored my little head of hair. And I thought I'll just hide in my cubie for 2 days. This is a Thursday and Friday. I'll just hide for 2 days, and then by Monday I'll be used to it. They'll all be used to it. Oh no, on Friday that week, in all my peach fuzz and glory, the wonderful people that I work with threw me a surprise party. I realized then losing my hair wasn't my biggest problem. So now I'm ready to take on the challenge of my daughter's wedding. I'm ready to resume as much normalcy as possible, though one is never normal after an experience of cancer. But our stories are really just unfinished songs. Our journeys and experiences don't just end. We are always being prepared for the next challenge or journey, so we can take what we've learned, both the good and bad, and hope to apply it to the next experience. 9 months after my normal life resumed, my husband was diagnosed with stage 3B lung cancer. The good news is, he too is a survivor at 2 years. The bad news is, he was unable to attend our daughter's wedding, the wedding that my presence was questioned had I not finished my treatments. How lucky, though, I was to have experienced my journey so I could better help him with his. So it was a blessing. I have multiple scars from all the surgeries, and the port is not very attractive. But again, I found another quote that helped me. Never be ashamed of a scar. It simply means you were stronger than whatever tried to hurt you. And since my left side looks like a road map, I am much stronger than I ever realized, and not one bit ashamed. You never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. The road to recovery is sometimes slow, but the path is made easier just knowing that God is watching over you, while friends and family stand beside you, caring and concerned. Together, they all join forces for you, praying that your recovery will be complete, full, and soon. I thought I could walk away from this entire experience, never giving it another thought, but I was wrong. The chances of my recurrence were very strong the first year, second year, third year. My 5-year mark is very important, and it'll be 4 years in July. So it is important to remember the post-remission patient, because there are dump trucks full of uncertainty and invisible scars that need healing. With all that being said, I would like to read this to you. Cancer, it's just a word, but it's 6 little letters that can change a life forever. If I asked how many of you have been touched by cancer in one way or another, many of us would sit with hands raised. The stories of survivors and of those whose fight is over never fall upon a dry eye. And the pain never completely goes away, but through the promising effort of cancer awareness groups such as this one tonight, we make it together, one day at a time. I can honestly look back over everything that has happened and tell you that I am a better person for the experience. I'm a better mom, daughter, wife, sister, employee. There is always hope. You can never give up. The moment you need to give up, you want to give up, you have to reach out to that support group and let them look you in the eyes and tell you, you have to keep going. And even if you don't think you can take another step, you need to put your foot and step in front anyway. It's truly been an honor tonight, and I thank you for letting me share my story. And while this is my story, I want this to be about you. I want to have impressed upon you the absolute importance of doing self-monthly exams. Please spread the word. Thank you.